I think we've seen an exceptional film. I sense I'm not alone in that. One brief comment, and then we're going to have a conversation and ask for questions from you. In the film, Cesar Chavez said, "I am angry because people who cut food cannot feed their families." This is a film about an extraordinary legacy, a social movement with very special leaders who inspired ordinary people to do extraordinary things. But that statement of Cesar Chavez's describes the period and in so many ways describes where we are today. We're going to talk about both in the context of this conversation. And we have three really exceptional people. Diego Luna, the director. Arturo Rodriguez. The president of the United Farm Workers, and someone who has spent his life in this struggle under the most difficult of circumstances, but with passion, conviction, and courage. And Maria Echaveste, who teaches at the Berkeley Law School, who has been an exceptional voice on immigration, who is the daughter of braceros, who herself worked in the fields, and who rose to be the deputy chief of staff in the Clinton administration. So I'm going to start with several questions to each of them, and then we'll open it up more broadly. Diego, I'm going to start with you. Okay. I'm going to start with a question I know you've been asked before, but I think it is so fascinating that I'll ask it again. Why did you make this film?
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for staying.
Hello?
Can you hear me? Yeah, there you go. I remember when I was, I think I was 15 years old, and I remember seeing images of the funeral of Cesar Chavez and that amazing image of thousands of farm workers walking in a wood box that had the body of Cesar, that even in his funeral, he was sending the right message, you know? He was sending the message that he was just another one of the movement. I remember that image as a kid. I didn't know why this man would move so many people, but I remember the image. And then I spent a lot of time in California because of my work, going back and forth from Mexico to the States. And my first son was born in Los Angeles. He's a Mexican-American. Suddenly I realized I had a Mexican-American in my family. And I have to say that the border has created a big distance between the Mexicans and the Mexican-Americans. As communities, we don't share stories. We're not connected. And I realized it was the moment to do a film about this man, about his legacy, because I wanted my son to be able to look at a film and find out where he comes from and what he's part of, you know? I believe we have to look back to find out who we are, and by looking back at the stories like Cesar's, we can get inspired to actually understand that change will never come if we're not part of it. Yeah, I come from a place where, you know, politicians have showed us that change will never come from their angle. We were in Harvard recently where our politicians go to give lessons to young kids about stuff they didn't do. And I so wanted it to send the message of if we fight indifference, things can happen, you know. It's by telling personal stories, as this movement showed us, that we can engage with people. I did the film because I thought there was an amazing message behind the boycott, you know. Instead of using violence and attacking straight at a machine that is oppressing us, if you go around and talk to consumers, it's at the end mothers talking to mothers, parents talking to parents, and people don't want to do wrong, don't want to hurt you. But it's indifference, it's ignorance many times what stops them from doing the right thing. I love the idea of mothers saying, well, just remind yourselves when you buy a grape that you're supporting child labor, you know, and that's when I connected with the story, because that's what we do as filmmakers. We tell personal stories that hopefully will confront you with a bigger thing, with a bigger issue, and make you react and do something. So I really wanted it to make sure my son had a reference, and that's why I started this journey of doing this film.
Let me. Let me ask a follow-up question to that. You've made this film, which is a personal story, the story of a social movement, and the story of some far-reaching changes. What are your goals for the film? How would you like to see the film received, and what impact would you like to see out of it?
Well, I would love to send, as I said at the beginning, the message to those who run the business of entertainment in this country that there should be content that represents us, that celebrates who we are, and that gives us a chance to get inspired and reflected by this huge mirror that film happens to be. I also wanted it to, I mean, it's very unfair to talk about an actual movement and pretend in an hour and 45 minutes to tell you why they were so exceptional. There's so many people that we had to leave out of the film that were part of the movement. I would love this film to detonate a film about Dolores Huerta. I would love that to happen. I would love to be able to say everything. I have like 50 hours of material in a computer that no one's gonna ever get to see about many specifics that cannot be here. But then on the process, and because of one amazing meeting I had with Chavez, I realized that there was something that can make this film universal, which is the father and son relation, and definitely something that connects with me. And I want this film to be universal. I don't want you to have to worry about the context of the characters to understand the message behind the film and to support and be touched emotionally by the film. So I focus on a father having to miss the opportunity to raise his kids because of a bigger thing, something that would affect them, but many others too. I think that makes Cesar and everyone in the movement heroic, you know. I can't imagine myself being far away from my kids, and to me that was a thing that it was important to bring out and show everyone. And I think that's why we were with Dolores, for example, in Berlin, at the Berlinale, the film festival, and we introduced the film over there, and it connected with a German audience that has no connection with the fields of California and no idea of the Mexican-American experience, but they connected with the film because it's at the end a father and son thing, and we're all one or the other, you know? So I wanted always to be reminded of that. We have to do a film that works as a film and that can entertain people and touch people. And I just hope on the 28th we go and fight for that chance of having films that represent us. So it's a message we have to send to this country. Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes in a conversation, people say, well, please hold your applause. Here you can applaud as much as you want. Arturo Rodriguez, you've spent your life in this movement. First, I'd like to ask you, what do you view as the legacy of what Dolores Huerta, of what Cesar Chavez, of what Jerry Cohn, Fred Ross, and others in this room did? What is the legacy of what we've seen?
Well, that's a powerful question, Harley. First of all, we just, again, want to thank everyone tonight. It's the first time that I had a chance to see this with a large audience, and it's amazing to see your reaction and to know your support there by all the applauses and the standing ovations at different parts in the film. Thank you very much. That in itself talks about what the legacy really is, the fact that it continue on. I think, you know, it's important. We have a whole new generation out there, Harley, a whole new generation of folks that weren't around 50 years ago, 40 years ago when all this started and began. And so I think this gives them an opportunity to learn what the heroes, the pioneers, the folks that had the courage and the commitment to really go against this powerful agribusiness industry 50 years ago when there wasn't this kind of support. You couldn't go into a place and expect hundreds of people or thousands of people to come. It took lots of work, as y'all saw in the film. Lots of sacrifice that took place. And I think that is being translated in the film. Diego, Pablo, y'all just did an excellent job of showing so many of the things that occurred during the marches and the fast and the support of the labor movement and the support of consumers and the aspect of religion in the movement. All those different things. I mean, it shares with a whole new generation of folks what it took to build this movement in those early days and the tremendous amount of energy that folks put into this and gave to this to really make it possible. And so that I hope that people take this, the younger generation, and they utilize this as a guide for them and what still needs to be done on issues like immigration reform or on issues like the Cesar Chavez Foundation. They have a whole effort to do a day of service to celebrate Cesar's birthday and to get petitions signed. So we want this film to also motivate people, young folks, but also all of us that were involved in the boycott at one time or another, to become reactivated and to do something, continue to do something on behalf of the women and the men, and too often still children that harvest our fruits and vegetables, and ensure that we remember what they did back then, but the best legacy is that we continue to live it today, and we continue to take action today. That's the best legacy in terms of what we can hope for out of what was done back in the 60s.
Arturo, you actually answered my second question, but
Great.
Let me ask it anyway. Your goals for the film, what else would you like to see come out of this?
Well, I mean, first thing is that, you know, you never come to a farm worker event without being asked to do something. So we definitely want you to go on the website to sign the petition for a National Day of Service. So we can go to the president, we can go to the Congress and demonstrate to them that the support exists. And this film will be opening on March 28th in 100 different markets, media markets in the country, and over 600 theaters. And so we're going to do everything. I mean, that's one. Secondly, now that you've seen it for free, as Diego mentioned, now it's time to pay. So come March 28th, that opening weekend, I mean, we want thousands of people to go see that film. We want to pack these theaters just like we have tonight. And that is so important, because people need to see this message. They need to see this film. They need to hear the message. They need to see what folks did back in the 60s, how this movement got started, and what can still be done today. Because what people did back then can still be done and continue to be done today in this day and age. It's no different in terms of what has to be done. So that's the second thing. Have a party, do whatever, get drunk before you go, but then just go. And enjoy yourselves and really decide to do something. So sign the petition, do that. And thirdly, make sure that you continue to go, because the boycotts today continue, but we use the social media as much as we do walking picket lines. So we need you to go to our website, ufw.org, www.ufw.org. Go there, sign up, give us your email address, go on Facebook, be a part of that. And in that way, we continue these efforts, not only utilizing the strategies and tactics that we used back then, but simultaneously we employ some of those new strategies that y'all know better than we do in terms of how to use them. So I would say, Harley, if you could do those three things, folks, fantastic. We're a hit.
Maria Echaveste, I want to start with the personal question. This is the first time you've seen the film. What is your reaction on any level to the film itself?
Well, I had a number of reactions, and it wouldn't surprise any of you whose roots are in the fields that to see and be reminded of the struggle, which, yes, it's been a long time for me personally, but nonetheless, the faces of just everyday workers and what it is, such a hard, hard job. So it was just, it really resonated, just remembering those feelings. And also, frankly, a little bit of anger that here we are, and I worked with Artie for many years and still care deeply about the farm worker movement, and the fact that today we still, across the country, ignore and do not respect the workers who feed us. And so, but I also want to thank Diego for having that connection, that being a leader, and we do need people to inspire us, does come at a cost. And the cost to the family, to that relationship with his son, was not lost, because I think for those of many folks who work to try to change the world also find themselves stressed and torn between the obligations to their families and their children, and I thought that was just a very important point.
Let me follow up with that. You're very involved on issues of immigration today, on issues of inequality, on so many of the contemporary challenges we face as a country, as a society. What relevance does this film have to these contemporary issues, unemployment, inequality, immigration?
Well, I also was really struck with those references to Ronald Reagan, to President Nixon, and was a very important reminder, because I think the progressive movement over the last few decades, we've really come to understand that you do need to be engaged politically, that we can't just sit back. We have to be engaged, as hard as it is. And I'm the first one to say, you know, not all of our politicians live up to our expectations. But that is not a reason for us to abstain. We have to hold them accountable. And the other thing was that it was very clear, it is individuals coming together can be as powerful as the largest corporations if we can remember that we actually are connected and we are in it together. And I think too often we forget, and we think it's just, I get despondent. I think, oh my goodness, on any issue I feel despondent. And then you see things and you realize, no, we can make a difference if we can keep focused on who is the enemy here, who is trying to keep us down. And if they're trying to keep this person down, it's only a matter of time before they come for you as well, right? So all of our fights are together.
let me ask each of you or any of you if you have something you'd like to raise or ask someone else who's up here. I have a brief comment. I'll ask myself. No, it's. I was struck seeing the film this time. It does have a really powerful universality. You're in Delano, but you are dealing with issues that span many other regions, many other parts of the world, many other times. Towards the end of the film, that core notion of solidarity in a field in Salinas, in the Coachella Valley, in the Imperial Valley, in New York, in Detroit, in London, in Berlin, that really came out, that universal quality about the core issues that were being discussed here. So let me ask if there are any questions. We have mics, so if you raise your hand, we can have somebody bring the mic. Okay, there's a right here in front. Mm-hmm. Part of the problem is I can't see anything. So.
Sorry, I just want to thank you again for a beautiful film. And I want to thank you especially for bringing out Larry Itliong and the Delano Maynongs. A lot of the Filipino struggle was left out. I just wonder how hard it was for you to find that or to dig into that or how you got information on that, because it's been left out for a long time.
It was there from the beginning. It's a fact, and I think a beautiful fact that talks exactly about this, that we're not here alone, and our necessities are the necessities of many around. We just have to have that curiosity to get out and see who thinks like us. And I think it's a very strong message that everything started by two communities that everyone thought were against each other, to working for the same cause, you know, and finding out that the good of your neighbors is your good. I mean, and I think it's a very clear thing on why they achieved what they achieved, because it was a movement about including, about finding that connects us and not that separates us. And I think, well, we always had it clear, and we wanted it to be part of. In fact, when we shot in Sonora, in the state of Sonora, that is a beautiful place in Mexico that produces 80% of the table grapes that Mexico produces. And the only little issue is there was no Filipinos there. And there is no Filipino community in Mexico. And you know one amazing thing that happened? Just like back then, Darion Vasco, who plays Larry Itliong, said, "Oh, just put a van for me and I'll take all my family." So 15 Filipinos arrived in a van to Sonora, and I remember a few of them bought their golf clubs, and I was like, no, I don't think you'll have time to play golf, but you're more than welcome. And his mom, his uncle, they were there, and they played all those roles. Yeah, so I guess I have to thank the Vasco family.
Other questions? There's a question on this side. Do we have our up there?
Hello, my name is Diego. Diego, hi. Thank you,
What a
everyone,
beautiful
everyone for the event and for the historical activism. So I have a question. At the beginning and at the end of the film, I saw the Televisa logo. And at the first, being someone from Mexico City, I was a little bit skeptical. So what is Emilio Azcárraga doing in a movie that has such a positive message? But then I thought, I was like, Diego probably had a conversation with Emilio Azcárraga about the importance of this movie. So I was like, great, this guy is getting to know about things. So, but in one of the things, many people here, they're academics, they're students, they're activists. Some of the things that we crave in our daily media is reality, like what you're portraying in this film. So how could a conversation go from an artist like you with Emilio Azcárraga to change the daily media that everyone has access to, which really needs to change things. How did that conversation go about for him to fund your film, to help, and how could we go out changing daily media for activism?
It's a good question. I'll tell you how everything happened very briefly. We got a script and we went around in the States, in California, to all the studios and those who normally finance films and those who like biopics. And we went and we found that everyone thought the film had to be made, but no one wanted to invest any money. They said, well, that's an amazing thing. A few said, well, what if you have Antonio Banderas portraying Cesar Chavez? And I went like, well, if farm workers look like Antonio Banderas, conditions will be very different because there is a racial thing going on here and you have to get it. And we're portraying the life of a man that exists. And in fact, there's murals about him and pictures. And we don't want to put Antonio Banderas and say things were not that bad, you know. And so then, as a company, we said, you know what, let's go back to Mexico and try to finance it from there. And it took us half an hour to convince not just Emilio, but everyone that joined. So I guess you have to find those things, again, that connects us, you know, and you have to be able to build before just, how do you say reproche? Really? That simple? Reproach? Damn. We cannot spend our lives reproaching, would you say? I think it's about building, and not just Emilio, but everyone in the state of Sonora and everyone that works with us normally found the importance of finding this audience, you know, and feeding this audience matters to them, you know. It's not coincidental that the two investors that are investors, not their companies, one owns Televisa and the other owns Univision. Jaime Saban, yeah, who's the other one that joined. At the end, they understand these stories need to be celebrated, and the others, I mean, we went to Fox too, and that's Murdoch, and they said no, but if they would have said yes, we would be doing a film with them because we want the story to be out and we have to use what's there, you know, and we have to make sure we get the message across and have people join us. So I am very not just happy, but I owe everyone that joined a lot, you know, because then we came back to the States and we said, okay, we have almost all the financing of our film, and amazing companies like Participant Media joined, you know. So anyway, our goal was to make the film, you know, and we were happy to include whoever wanted to join, and that's why there's like 10 logos before the film even starts. No one wanted us to give the whole $10 million that this film cost. So we were happy to share with as many, and the film is out there, so that's a good thing.
Yes. I think the question about how to influence the daily media, I do want to underscore that too often people who are the ones who are writing the checks, who are worried about the bottom line, will not invest in things like this if it's not supported, right? And it's not actually self-serving to say that we really need to support films that put this kind of positive message that can be inspiring, because it gives other people who have resources to say, well, maybe there's a market there. So we have the power to actually change what media gives to us, and I think sometimes we are a little too passive about it, so I just want to underscore that we can also help change.
Yeah, and it's what the film shows us, no? The boycott shows us. We as consumers have a responsibility. Every time we buy a ticket, we're allowing that voice to exist. we're allowing that kind of cinema to exist. So it's about sending the right messages as audiences. And if we do it, they'll react because no one wants to miss the opportunity to feed a market. So let's make sure they understand we're a big market, you know?
Harley, let me. Yeah. And so just to add to what Diego and Maria is saying is that, look, there are several folks that had come prior to Diego saying that they wanted to produce this film. And they tried to write scripts and so forth. But as Diego said, the financing always became the issue. And they couldn't get the financing from companies here in the United States. And so when Diego, like folks back then, like all of our leaders back then, decided, you know, well, we got to go on the boycott, we got to go beyond the fields in order to succeed, Diego and his team made the same decision. They got to go beyond people here that are willing to invest in something that's going to have a social impact on our country. And as a result of that, we have the film. And so but it is going to be important, our participation come the 28th, to demonstrate to everyone here, Hollywood as much as the investors, that they should be investing in these types of films and making sure there's a lot more of them to take place.
I just want to, before taking the next question, I want to briefly share a comment that we heard earlier today. Diego, Pablo Cruz, the producer of the film, myself, and a colleague, Mariana Ansua from the center, were walking in the Berkeley Law School. And a woman there who was a law student recognized Diego and came up to us. And she said something that I think summarizes an important part of this discussion. She said, "I'm from Mexico, and I want to thank you for being a filmmaker with a social conscience." One more question on this side. Is there a question over there? Yes, right there.
Not really a question, but before the panel ends, I just wanted to ask Arturo, we have like the amazing opportunity to have him here, to kind of, I know we kind of saw the unity clap a little in the film, and a few of us kind of like got really into it, but didn't get to finish it. So if you can kind of explain a little bit more about it and maybe lead the crowd in what the unity clap is.
Oh. You know, of course, Dolores and Jerry and all of them were there at that particular time in the 60s, but the story I was always told when I came to work is that, you know, we needed to demonstrate to growers and to everybody else that said farm workers could never organize, that an applause, a unified applause, an organized applause, was one way of demonstrating that to as much to ourselves as to everyone else. That we're organized, and that we're gone, and that when you applause everybody together, it sounds a lot louder, has a bigger impact, and everybody can feel like we're together, we're strong, we're ready to take on whomever in order to win.
I tell you, hello. I tell you one thing, that we were in Berlin, and Dolores came, and besides breaking everyone's heart when she got on stage, because they were actually seeing her, and many got to know her before, but a few got a chance to know her through the film. She organized the applause over there. She organized Así Se Puede with 1,600 Germans. And it was so powerful, and in a second they were part of something bigger. And I guess it's about that feeling, why it is so strong. That's the way we started when the first day of shooting, we did one, and it kind of connected us all to be able to go on this journey. So it is powerful. See?
We have time for one more question over here.
Hey, it's the last question. A lot of pressure, huh? I have to say. Everyone will remember this one.
And
And maybe I should ask something much more intense than this, but I was just curious about the actors and actresses who played Dolores and Cesar and Helen and others in the film, and how they felt actually about their role in doing that, and if it moved them to want to do more social movement things, because we need more of our entertainment community who are leaders to really speak out like this.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll tell you how was the process. At the beginning, I had in my list Michael Peña as my first choice for this, but we decided to do an open call and to see not just every actor working, because this industry gives just a little chance to actors from this community to actually be a part of. So we said, let's also go to theater companies, radio stations, to see all of those Latinos that probably wanted one day to act and they found a wall. And we got so many videos, so much faces to see, and found out that there was like a need of this community to be part of this, you know. People would call us and say, please, I want to audition. And we would be like, well, but you're 50, you cannot play Dolores when she's 30. I'm so sorry, it's difficult, but please come and let's try to find another role for you. And we realized that everyone wanted to be part of, and the hard part was to say, no, there's no room for you here. But with Michael is a first generation. He was born in Chicago. His father comes from a place called Purificación, Jalisco in Mexico. And he understands the Mexican-American experience. He understands that duality of being the first generation, the one that has to go in school and speak in English, but has to go home and speak in Spanish to his parents. He understands the journey, and his instincts were right. We did like 4 auditions with him, and he nailed them, and that's how he got the job. And I was very lucky to get him. Then with Rosario, for example, that plays Dolores, we didn't even get to the audition because we sat down in a coffee to talk about the idea and the possibility, and for an hour and a half she spoke about Voto Latino, that she's been working for quite a long time. And I realized I was in front of an organizer that was trying to, my film had nothing to do with the reason she was there. She wanted me to join the campaign and go behind her, and I almost signed, you know, so I said, you're right, you're the perfect person. Same with America Ferrer. America toured the whole country with Obama, talking about the power of Latinos and the importance of being united and have a voice, and find strength in numbers. So it was the same thing. Almost every actor in this film understands why this had to be made, you know, and I was very lucky to have them.
Where did you get all the workers?
The workers. That's another thing. We were shooting in Sonora, so makeup cannot do that, you know. Those faces have been under the sun for hours and hours, and on those rough conditions, and their hands are real hands, and so we thought it was easier to explain to a farm worker how we do film instead of explaining extras what it is to be a farm worker, you know. And it was fun because the first day there was thousands of them. All Sonora came to be part of the film. The third day they realized film is not as glamorous and it's boring, and they have to wait long periods of time. So we had to go to other towns, but to find people. And also every time we were shooting this way, you know, you would turn right and people were picking grapes, you know. So we were reminded on what was the story we were talking about. All our actors went to work on the fields, and I remember being on the fields and saying to the guys, please treat them as you treat every worker here. And they came back with the feeling of knowing something they didn't knew before, you know. And it was the feeling of being in that place that visually looks gorgeous. you know? But if you think about yourself being in the middle of that place where you're just a little dot in the middle of a huge landscape where there's no shadow, no bathrooms, no nothing that for us are just part of our everyday lives, you know? And they realized they were left alone in the middle of the fields, and they had that memory there very recent, so they could portray what they did.
Harley, the producer
John
here.
Malkovich, what was that?
Harley, the producer here is saying that we have a few more minutes.
Okay.
Yay! That's good news.
Arturo, did you have a brief comment you wanted to make?
I'll make it at the end.
Okay.
An announcement about an event.
Okay.
So we have a question. We have a question over here.
There's a
Harley.
question right here.
You can't see me.
It actually isn't a question. This is directed to Harley Shaiken yourself. There are many workers at the University of California who, believe it or not, suffer the struggle of low wages. And I know that you were faced with the challenge of a looming strike here and had to make a decision to change the venue of this very film today to off-campus. So I just want to acknowledge that you took a connection for us from this past of the struggle that continues today, but brought us all into it today in the struggle for low-wage workers by bringing us all together to honor those workers in the struggle at the University of California.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great work,
That's great work. I'll tell you one little anecdote, sorry. But it was, strikes are following us. And I believe it's the power of this film. We arrived to Sonora, and we were going to shoot in this field owned by the University of Sonora. And a day before we arrived, they went on strike. And we went to the strikers and said, we're doing a film about strikes, about the power of people raising their voices at the same time. And they let us in without letting anyone know. And we were shooting in the fields while the strike was happening in order to be able to tell this story. And it's quite powerful to find out those things. And when you called us and said, we have an issue, I was surprised and happy, you know, that we're part of a bigger thing happening. This is just a little thing of something bigger going around, and we have to know we're part of that, and never lose curiosity to see what's happening around the world, in Venezuela, in Croatia. Well, I mean, it's an important time, and we're part of something bigger.
Let me very briefly comment on that. He deserves part of the blame or credit. There was negotiations between a campus union representing some of the lowest paid workers here. It looked like there could be a strike on Monday. We chose to cancel our reservation on campus and move the event here to honor that picket line should it occur. Why Diego Luna is involved in this, to me, the unusual power of this film. It tells a story of sacrifice, of heroism, of selflessness, and of solidarity. But it was then, but the power of the film to me is if you are affected by it, if you are moved by it, you realize it's about today and tomorrow. It is not a piece of history, it is our future. Yes.
There is a very...
Hi, I have more of a comment than a question. I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to add to Arturo's comment and thank you and Dolores, because I think, I'm sorry, I'm very emotional because I'm also angry, and I'm angry at my country because we're not offering a place for these workers, Mexico. We have normalized poverty in every single way, and we are indifferent in so many ways. And I think your movement is a lesson to us. Me as a Mexican, because I'm not Mexican-American, I'm a Mexican lawyer trained in Mexico. And this is what I bring back to my country, this legacy, this movement, and we can do it back home as well. And we can create a more just Mexico as well.
Absolutely.
we have time for one more question over here, way in the back on the side. Yes.
Hey, wait for the microphone because...
So this question's for Diego Luna. And do you have any other upcoming projects for next year, or are you, I don't know, just any projects? Are you working on any current projects?
Well, yeah, I do have projects, but everything depends again on what happens on the 28th, you know? No, it's true, because if no one goes, then I'll probably be back home telling a story of a little kid in his house and shooting an apartment and feel free to do anything. But if people shows up in the cinemas, there's a tool for us to use, and we're definitely gonna use it. We have an amazing project called Ambulante, which is a documentary film festival that travels all around Mexico, and it goes through 15 states and stays for a week in your state, and it shows you 80 films in cinemas, in plazas, and it's all documentaries, and it's all about issues that we want to bring to the table and discussions we want to start, debates we want to start. And this year, Pablo, is in October? September. In September, we open Ambulante, California, and we're coming here with a selection of documentaries, and we're hoping one day we can expand and have an Ambulante USA, but at least the first step is Ambulante, California. So we're also working hard on that, and but right now it's all about promoting this film. That's it. And I'll tell you one thing, and it's kind of dangerous to be here because by being here, I think I have a feeling I'm in a different world. I don't want to get out of here. You know, I don't want to have to be again in a Q&A where I have to remind people why this matters. This is an amazing reality you live in, and I'm so jealous. I have to say, I love this place. It's amazing, and it gives us all the energy to go and convince everyone else in the country, in all the tour we're doing these next 4 weeks, that there's a place called Berkeley, and that people should get you as an example, you know?
I have 2 brief remarks. Arturo, did you want to say something?
Sure.
Perfect.
Harley. I just want to, there is 2 people I want to recognize that are here tonight. One is Cesar's sister, Rita Chavez Medina. Rita, if you could please stand up. And a lot of the Medina family came along with their sons and so forth. And then also Richard's son, Freddie Chavez, that's here tonight. Freddie.
Gracias.
But, and again, we want to very much just thank everyone. Thank you, Harley, for doing this and working out all the details. We know about strikes. So figuring all the logistics around all that stuff is so critical. But folks, what Diego said can't be more truer. I mean, we really do have to come out big on the 28th. And so much depends on you now. Diego did his part in terms of, and Pablo raising the money and putting this film together. Now we got to do our part. So it's important, it's critical for the future of, not so much in terms of what just Cesar Chavez and Dolores and all the other folks did, Richard and Jerry and Helen and so forth did back in the 60s. It's important for us now to show and demonstrate that the movement is still very much alive, and it's in different forms and in different ways it takes place. And so we need all of you to do everything you possibly can to motivate your families and friends and comadres and compadres and everyone to come and be a part of this. And to also continue to support the marches and everything else. I know there's going to be another march here in the Bay Area coming up on April 12th. It is April 12th. And people are going to get together at 19th Street in Dolores. So please be a part of that. Continue to support those kind of marches. I know there's probably going to be marches around here and everything else, so we invite you all to come out and do it, and go sign the petition as well. Thank you very much.
I have...
Wait a second, I think...
No, I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a very brief comment, and then I think there's only one way to conclude an evening that began with this film, Cesar Chavez. My brief comment, I wanted to thank the people from the Center for Latin American Studies for all the work they put into this. And the only way we could possibly conclude an evening, I think, of the power of the cinema is to give the mic to Dolores Huerta.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, in the audience, we have a lot of people who left their jobs, came to work for the union full-time. They went to many cities throughout the United States of America, even to England, to do the great boycott. And I would like them to stand for one quick moment. You know who you are? Boycotters? Okay, stand up and let's give these people a big applause. Because they went out there really working for no wages for the $5 a week, and they had to raise money to support the strikers at Delano. As you know, the strike went on for five whole years before we were able to win. The other thing I just want to say is that I also have my daughter, Camila Chavez. It was also Richard Chavez's daughter also, okay? So we have another one, Richard. But one other thing I want to say, we were talking about how we all have to get out there and do the work, and one thing the movie doesn't show, and thank you, Maria Echaveste, for mentioning it, a lot of the work that we did in starting with community service organization and the union was making sure that people registered to vote, right? And that people got out there and voted so that we could get people elected, good people like you guys have in Berkeley, right? But all over the United States of America. And just one other thing, you know, we always have to do a commercial, right? Remember, Cesar's birthday is March 31st. So we want to give Cesar a big old present by making sure that we organize at least 5 other people to come and see the film. Can we do that? And one more commercial. Also, by March 31st, we've got to get everybody signed up for the Affordable Care Act. All right? So, especially those of us in the Latino community, if we don't sign up, it's not going to make it. It's not going to work. So you have to do it. You know, we fought for 60 years for civil rights. It only takes an hour to sign up for the Affordable Care Act, okay? So I think when you compare 60 years to 1 hour, that you can get out there and do it. Tell your friends, all right? We've got to do it. We've got to sign up by March 31st. If not, it's not going to work. It's up to us. We have to be responsible. We have to be good citizens, and we can make it happen. ¿Se puede o no se puede? Sí, se puede.
Thank you all.